Welcome back, Jacob.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me.
So yes, I'm delighted to have you back on. I interviewed Jacob about 2 months ago, maybe even more, about the agentic state. He had written a very interesting article about the externalization of the agentic state, and we discussed in depth a white paper that was published by the Global Government Technology Center Berlin about their plans to let AI agents take over governments, and relegate humans to the sidelines, if that. Dark topic. And today's topic is at least equally dark and also related to the previous one. We'll discuss what David Hugh has coined Omniwar, which is like a total war waged by a transnational elite against humanity. Can't really get much darker than that, I think. So, Jacob, it seems to me that you decided to specialize in dark topics.
Yeah.
Which I think
yes.
which I think is rather remarkable, because from my experience, people shrink away from thinking about horrific developments that, if true, if they came true, would be absolutely life-changing for them in a catastrophic way. And instead, people tend to look for reasons that such things could not possibly be true, or must at least be widely exaggerated, so that they can continue going on with their daily lives, which is difficult enough a thing to do. But not you. Why is that?
I don't think it's that easy to answer. But I've always been interested in power politics, and from an early age, I have been thinking about how the world is run, and also through personal experiences found out things. And I mean, meeting people that are not good people, like psychopathic personalities. We have these people, and these people, they want power, and they want to exercise power, and you will find them in these positions everywhere. And it was like one thing was when in the 90s, when I was writing my master thesis about the cultural heritage of my hometown, Norrköping, about city planning, and the power over the city and the city planning board and so on, and finding out that democracy was not on the table. It was just something that, you can vote, but ordinary people have no say in these matters. And in my case, I studied a big street in Norrköping, and I wrote a thesis about it, how these big construction companies exercised their power and could tear down a lot of old buildings for first building kind of a autobahn through the city, and just get rid of the old cultural heritage, and all the people that lived on this street, they didn't want to move, but the power took over. And I just took it from that level later and studied Swedish energy policy, European energy policy, and then global policy making, and finding out that there are powers that work behind the scenes without that much insight from ordinary people. And ordinary people think they live in a democratic society where they have a say in matters, but we have these structures behind the scenes, and they don't always have the best intentions for us. It's more like one aspect is, of course, earning a lot of money on us, but also to exercise power in its fullest. Like Henry Kissinger said, with power is the aphrodisiac. It's the ultimate thing to have. And
well, certainly for him, right?
Yeah, yes, of course.
Absolutely.
I started it from a local level to a transnational level.
Yeah, that makes sense. So you said that democracy is not on the table when you looked at the cities and their politics and policies and way back in the 90s. And that's exactly right. I mean, that leads us directly to the Omniwar, because in the Omniwar, democracy is definitely off the table. Right now, I mean, yes, democracy is like, as you described it, like a veneer. But if you don't even have to scratch very much anymore. I think you used to have to scratch a little bit more 3 decades, 4 decades, 5 decades ago.
Yeah.
But the veneer is getting thinner and thinner, and the Omniwar is showing that very nicely. So there was this Omniwar Symposium that took place when? In October, I think it was, right? Or was it November?
Before 4th of October.
Okay. I think it was the third one, the third Omniwar Symposium. Yeah. And it was organized by Patrick Wood.
Patrick Wood and David Hughes.
And David Hughes.
Yeah.
Okay, David Hughes. Okay. And you, Jacob, were one of the speakers, and we'll go into that later, who the other speakers were, and also what your own talk was about at this Omniwar Symposium. But first, let's cover the basics. What on earth is this Omniwar?
Well, it's like the total war against humanity. It's the subjugation of humanity into a technocratic system of control with every means they have with artificial intelligence and digital technologies and facial recognition and all these technologies that the powers now have. They have developed them and they can use them. And in the center we also find the digital ID identification system, of course. That's very important. And also with these digital technologies moving inside our bodies as well.
Yes, the transhumanist aspect of the whole thing.
And then you can say that it also has a lot to do with the fourth industrial revolution coined by Klaus Schwab in 2015-16 with the fusion of cyber biological systems.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And this expression Omniwar, I mean, it's actually, I think it's a pretty good term because it immediately reminds you of omnibus. So like, omnibus. And omnibus actually is just Latin. It means it's a form of the dative plural of omnes, which means all. Omnes is just all.
Mm-hmm.
So omni, which then became bus, is just like all, for all. Or omnibus can also be another preposition, but it was like a bus for all, omnibus for all. And omniwar, then I guess is just like it's an omniwar war. It, as you said, it's a total war that is waged. That is waged against humanity, against populations. So it's no longer the kind of war we used to wage from, one nation against other nations. Not that. It's, I think David Hughes calls it a vertical war. So it's the elite, and it's a transnational elite waging war against populations, wherever they are, transnational populations, everywhere. That's a rather interesting new kind of war, this vertical war.
Yes, it is. Very much so.
Let's go into the characteristics. You know what I did? So I took the transcript. The symposium was 5 hours long, and I actually listened to the whole thing, but I also created a transcript of it. And then I fed the transcript into AI. I believe in using AI to wage war against Omniwar. I mean, to resist this Omniwar. I actually think we don't have any choice but to use AI for our own purposes. So I fed it into AI and said, create some sort of presentation for me based on this transcript. And it came up with a very simple presentation that shows the 8 domains. It's not much information in there, but the information that it sucked out of this very long transcript is quite good. And I'm just going to share my screen and I'll show it, and you can talk about the various domains where this Omniwar is being waged. I'm going to share my screen. All right, so here we go. Omniwar, mapping the domains of technocratic control. And this is it starts off with the question, what is Omniwar? And we already talked about that. Novel form of total warfare. Yes, waged across all domains of life, aims to establish a technocratic scientific dictatorship, largely covert, using psychological operations and technology, and it's a coordinated attack on human autonomy and liberty. But let's go over the domains. So the architecture, they use technocracy. Maybe you can say a word or two about technocracy. What is this term that Patrick Wood, I don't know if he coined the term. No, he certainly didn't, because it actually goes way back, right?
It goes back to the 1950s and the technocratic movement. I think it could be even older than that. It's a society run by the scientists and engineers, no politicians, no vote. It's a perfect system for control over people, and it's like people will just be cells in a kind of an organism, and with information about every man and woman to be retrieved immediately. We already have a lot of this system in place already, but in the 30s they had this technocratic movement that they had this kind of a manual on how this society would be run. Patrick Wood is an expert in this and has written about this in a couple of books. And this technocratic movement, it was based in United States and Canada as well. Elon Musk's grandfather was the leader of a technocratic movement in Canada. But we also had an influence from the technocrats in Germany, in Nazi Germany. So a lot of these people, they weren't allowed to be under the technocratic movement, of course, but their ideas were used by the Nazi regime. For example, IBM and the punching card systems and so on. This is very technocratic concepts, but we can find this in the late. I come from a country that is very technocratic with a social security number from the early. It was very early that it come in place in Sweden, and essentially you become a part of the system very much, and all surveilled. And surveillance is, of course, a very, very important part of this, because everything has to be surveilled. Every human being and every item should be registered.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's a very, very system that, and also run by technocrats, technocratic rule by experts. They decide what's best for you, and also it's based on a balanced system. So it's not like the old capitalistic system or even socialistic system. You manufacture what is needed. So it's kind of planned economy, and that's where it goes hand in hand with the socialist system, of course. But it's based on energy credits instead, and in the modern form, it's you could say it's transformed into carbon credits. So the whole thing with climate change and the carbon management system it's a basis for this technocratic system.
Right, and like tokenization of assets, right? That everything is tokenized on a ledger. So you mentioned, that was very interesting what you said about Musk's father being in Canada and being into this technocratic movement back then, because I remember I read that his grandfather, I think it was his grandfather, or was it his father? His grandfather?
His grandfather, yeah.
His grandfather, right, his grandfather.
On the maternal side.
Maternal side, okay. So his grandfather, I read, the reason he left Canada and went to South Africa was that he kind of escaped to South Africa because he was kicked out. He was I guess, I don't know what he was doing with this technocratic stuff, but he was kicked out of Canada, apparently. They didn't want him anymore. And so that's why the family ended up in South Africa. And that's probably also why when Musk left South Africa, when he was, I don't know, 18 or 19 or so, he went back to Canada because he still had relatives there. Yeah. That makes sense. So, and then we have the transhumanism part. Do you want to say something about that, how that fits in with this technocratic agenda?
Yes, very, very much so. They are, as Patrick Wood wrote in a book, they are the evil twins. Technocracy, it's the technological management of everything. And then the transhumanism, it's when the humans become integrated in this machinery. And transhumanism is the enhancement of human capabilities with the help of technology. The term was coined in 1957, I think, by Julian Huxley, and who talked about taking control over human evolution. This is ideas of perfecting the human being and make us more efficient and more fit for this technological society.
Perfecting human beings. Human beings are so flawed. I mean, we are just very flawed creatures. That's the way it is. That's the way we are. We'll always be flawed. We'll always mess things up. If people would only, it would be a big gain if people would just accept that and stop fantasizing about perfecting human beings or perfecting this or that or perfecting society. Because, if we can just stumble along without catastrophic results, without killing millions of people, then we are doing pretty well. So, but it's so interesting to see that this idea of perfecting humans has been with us probably, for forever.
Yeah.
All the way back to Plato and further back and further back. It's just part of seems to be our makeup, and a very, very dangerous part. So if these guys back like 100 years ago, if these guys like Julian Huxley would have had the technical means, the technical tools that we have today, they would have tried to do probably something very similar to what's going on now. What do you think?
Yes, they would. I mean, the whole thing with the technocratic movement, they wanted to create this, but they didn't have the technology at that time to do it properly. And the ideas to it like Julian Huxley and we have also Oliver Reiser that I have written a lot about. They had the ideas for it, and then they tried to steer development in that direction. So they have had a plan for bringing this society into fruition.
And they failed. Thank goodness. Wasn't prime time yet.
Well, no. They didn't fail. I said they started to think about this kind of society, and we have H.G. Wells. They had the ideas for it, and then they started to working on it together with the big foundations, the think tanks, and the big corporations like IBM. They started to work on the technology, and then they slowly have perfected the technology over the decades. So, and this is what we see today is a continuation of the ideas that they developed. So it's not like they didn't succeed. It's just, no, they didn't have the technology at that time, but they have worked all the time with it. So they didn't think that they would have this system in place at that time. They knew it would take decades or perhaps in 100 years to achieve this.
Yeah, 100 years. That's right. It's about 100 years. Right. So let's have a look at the first domain here, which is financial control. So central bank digital currencies, CBDCs, which is programmable money and conditional spending, social credit score integration, and real-time financial surveillance and control. Yeah, financial controls. Super important.
Yes, it is. And to a big extent, we already have this financial surveillance and control, especially in a country like Sweden.
I know. With your bank, what do you have? You have this bank card thing, right?
Yeah.
What is it called?
The bank ID. You
the
think
bank
about,
ID.
Yeah, the bank ID. So that's kind of a digital ID, but not that developed like we want to use it, but it's you have every features in it, and they also want to integrate so you can have a digital identification card connected to the bank ID. So you have it, but in Sweden also without using very, very little cash in circulation nowadays. It's probably less than 10%.
It's probably the same here, probably similar here.
Yeah, and of course we know our bank accounts can be surveilled. They know. what we are using our money on.
And then, so in Britain, the so-called, I think they call it the Brit card, which is like a digital ID, was just introduced or not long ago, and there's a lot of resistance against it. I think 4%, a petition is circulating against it, and I think 4% of the entire population, imagine that, that's a large percentage for a petition, signed this petition. And then, in the United States, Trump issued an executive order against CBDCs, but at the same time, or around the same time, he also, this Genius Act was passed with the stable coins, and stable coins are programmable. So they are programmable money.
Yeah.
So,
it's basically the same thing. It's just Trump is doing it from the other side. So this is a kind of this is the dialectics and false dichotomies with these sides that are fighting against each other, but it's all leading in the same direction in the end. Thesis, antithesis, or synthesis. So I've talked about this in my presentation, and with the team behind Trump is also builders of his system. It's just they don't use sustainable development, climate change, and all these buzzwords too. So they are more frank in their intentions. They just said we need the energy to build these centers, and we're going to create this, and we are changing how government is functioning, but they don't use the UN United Nations wording for it, but it's in the end it's the same thing.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, and for good reason they are not using the same wording, because they try to appeal to the MAGA base. And stable coin, that sounds pretty good. Who doesn't want to have a stable coin? But it's very deceptive. All right, so let's move on to biosecurity. So here we have the biodigital convergence and implantable devices, vaccine passports and health surveillance systems, gene therapy and human biological modification, and, of course, pandemic preparedness infrastructure for control. All this wonderful stuff that we are pretty familiar with now after COVID, after the pandemic.
Yeah, so this is the WHO agenda, more or less, with control over humans. With the health. This is the other leg. The other is the climate change agenda. It's the control of the planet and the resources.
Human biological modifications, the transhumanist element, the implantable devices. RFK said sometime in the summer that he imagines that in a couple of years, everybody should wear or will wear not an implantable device, but the step before, namely a wearable device, vaccine passports. All right, let's go to domain 3. Just want to get an overview of this Omniwar. Domain 3 is AI and algorithms. So the AI-driven decision-making, replacing human judgment. And we talked about that when we talked about your agentic state paper. Yeah, the externalization of the agentic state, how AI and algorithms will replace human judgment, and in government too. Predictive policing and pre-crime systems. Yep, that goes.
That's in the, of course. That's what governments do. They police things with their police authorities, and also we have crisis management. Of course, that's a big thing. That's a part of the G20 agenda as well. If you look into that, G20 summit was this weekend, and also we had the climate summit in Belém in Brazil, and they talked a lot about these technologies and this crisis management.
And multi-crisis here.
The more crisis,
poly-crisis. The more crises, the better, to keep the population scared and confused and intimidated and headless. That's what they love. So they have to manufacture all sorts of crises like climate change and other things. But this pre-crime stuff, it requires the pre-crime systems. They require all our data. So they need to know everything about us all the time. And then like a company like Palantir builds enormous, the databases that unifies all this data and allows, and that would allow something like a pre-crime system where you are going to be stopped in your tracks before you have done anything. Pretty awful. How does that work in Sweden? Does the Swedish government work together with Palantir?
I think I heard something about it. It's not like it's a public debate about these matters. But there are a lot of things going on with these developments. I haven't heard maybe one time with Palantir. The thing is that we had this Bilderberg meeting in Sweden, and
Right.
we had Peter Thiel coming over. One of the most important people behind the Trump administration sits on the steering board of the Bilderberg Group, and at this meeting, it was the Swedish Wallenberg family that was running the show. And they had this. Everything was about artificial intelligence, and so they probably discussed a lot of contracts for the governments and how they will use these technologies in the future. Just after this, a couple of months later, there was a announcement in Sweden about these new AI centers, but it was also NVIDIA. That's one of the big corporations involved in this as well, with building this infrastructure.
So these AI centers, are these data centers?
Yeah.
Okay. How many do you have in Sweden? Because we're here in the United States, they are totally mad, a complete madness.
Yeah.
They already have like, I don't know, hundreds of them. They want to, they know what am I saying? They have thousands of them already, and they want to build another, I don't know how many thousand, maybe 10,000 of them, and they are absolutely enormous. How many data centers do you have in Sweden?
I don't know, but it's we have built quite a few. Because of Sweden is important in Europe because of we have a lot of energy in Sweden and a lot of space. So they hydropower in Sweden.
Mm-hmm.
And water, fresh water is very important for this. So Sweden has a lot of water. So we become an important hub to build these centers in European Union.
Right.
But I don't know the figures. I don't even know the numbers on how many it is.
Yeah. At these Bilderberg meetings, I think they do them once a year, right? There's a really important meeting. Yeah. So I imagine that, I'm sure they have presentations there. They probably have like some kind of similar presentation to the one that we are going through here, where they go over all the different domains. Of course, it's going to be packaged in a different way. So it's going to be twisted to make it sound, it's kind of positive, positive, not just kind of positive, but positive.
Yeah, yes, it's positive for a lot of these people because they are owners of these corporations that are building the infrastructure. Yes. So they get the contracts for it, and then they have the politicians. Some of the politicians coming over to these meetings as well, and implementing the policies afterwards.
Yeah. Oh, the politicians coming. Yeah, you see how the politicians become more and more unimportant. Okay, so they're invited to one of these meetings, but they're kind of withering away. Don't play a great role anymore, or become subservient to this whole agenda and to these billionaire technocrats?
Very much subservient, because in this meeting in this summer, we had both the Swedish Prime Minister was attending, and also the opposition leader was attending this meeting. We have the
Really?
Wallenbergs was the hosts. It's not the Swedish government's host. It's the Wallenberg family who's running this. So and we can see afterwards with and also the contracts for the defense industry, where Wallenbergs have a lot invested in, and Saab, of course, this aerospace manufacturer, very important.
Yeah.
So afterwards, we have this meeting when they secure the contracts with the government.
And that brings us to the next point here in the domain 3. It says the autonomous weapons and killer drones, so the military aspect of it all, and not just against. Well, I mean, for the population, it's look, we have to defend against China and against Iran, and these states are in fact dangerous, and we do need to defend against them. But these weapons will also be used, or maybe even primarily be used, against their own populations.
Yeah.
And then we have AI as super weapon for totalitarian control. Yeah. Okay, so that was domain 3. Let's have a look at domain 4, or what it calls domain 4 here. I mean, the order is not important.
Yeah.
This is the cognitive warfare and info ops. So psychological operations and narrative management. Yep, very important. Censorship. I'll just read this and then you can talk about it. These 4 points here. Censorship infrastructure and truth ministries. Cognitive warfare targeting human perception. And then the last one, mass manipulation through media and social platforms.
Yes, and this is a big thing. It was a part of a Pact for the Future and our common agenda, where we discussed this problems with misinformation, disinformation, and malinformation, and how they would manage this. So this has been a important part of a global digital compact, and we can see from at the climate summit just a few days ago, last week, they had discussions about this and agreements on how to create a better management of information. We call it information integrity.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
that's how they frame it. And the same if you go into the G20 summit now this week, and they also had this mentioned in the outcome document. So they are working on it very much so to make sure that the right information comes out, and they will probably use AI to flag the information they don't like, and make it harder to find that kind of information that goes against the narratives. And that, of course, is a way also to make people, if you don't even see these things, or that is there is alternative views, well, you are manipulated. Your perception is manipulated.
Yes, and they're already doing this flagging that you just mentioned, flagging information that doesn't fit the narrative, that violates this coveted information integrity. They're already doing that in Germany. And in Germany, for sure, they have a crawler that is called Kiwi, so künstliche Intelligenz, artificial intelligence vigilare, so from Latin to be on watch. So to be on watch for information that doesn't fit the narrative, that will destroy the narrative management. And this Kiwi thing, it crawls through the entire internet, social media, brings up, it just dredges up thousands and thousands of posts or content that is deemed suspicious, and they have to turn it off after 1 hour because the looking at it and then deciding who should be prosecuted, and they prosecute people in Germany just for reposting. Imagine that. Takes so much time because it's still done by humans and not by AI agents, that they cannot have this Kiwi thing running for more than an hour a day. So, this narrative management, it's like a story, right? It's like treating the populations as children who are told a story, like the story of the Tooth Fairy or the Easter Bunny or something like that. And, you have to make sure that people don't find out that the Easter Bunny and the Tooth Fairy don't really exist. Just one little piece, if it's a really striking piece of evidence that the Truth Fairy doesn't exist, well, it's going to destroy the story, as it does for kids, because kids sooner or later find out that it doesn't exist. And that's the same here. So they have to run a very tight ship.
Yeah, and also they want to use digital IDs in the future for access to internet and social media, and we can already see this in a couple of countries now. And here in Sweden, they also have talked about how they want to regulate social media, and that younger people than 15 shouldn't be allowed. And of course, they have to check people, and then they probably will use digital ID, and then they can also see. They want to know who has posted the content, and so it gets. You can find the people behind it and flag these people, and maybe connect bad information to their social credit score in the end.
Yeah. Let's go to the next one, which is digital surveillance. Yeah, and you just mentioned that the digital ID system, which is really the linchpin, I think, for implementing this total surveillance state. So I just read the 4 bullet points for those who don't watch this interview, and then you can talk about it. So it's biometric identification and digital ID systems, then mass data collection and behavioral tracking, smart city infrastructure for continuous monitoring, and integration of human bodies into control grids. Wow.
Yes, and it's just to go outside and watch what has happened. Here in Norrköping, my city, we have these surveillance cameras on the streets now. It has been, I think it was kind of a year ago, they started putting up this for crime, because we have had this gang war in Norrköping. We have bombings. A lot
Wait,
of.
no, did you or did you?
We have had bombings. Yeah. I woke up. I was going to sleep 2 days ago at 11 p.m. and suddenly, and I was just about to sleep, and it just came an explosion. And I just went up. What was this? And I went up and just told my wife, "Did you hear that?" And the day after, I found the information directly that they have a bombing of a building, kind of 2 kilometers away from where we live. And the same day, another bomb had blown at the entrance to a building. So that's what they have been doing. We blew up the entrance to building, to apartment buildings, and it has happened a lot in Sweden. We have a lot of these things has happened the last 5 years. And
so are these genuine bombings, or who's behind this?
It's so the official version is that we have an organized crime in Norrköping, and 2 competing criminal networks. but are fighting each other. So the bombings has been aimed at people from the other network and where they live. So and this is kind of a warning. It's not like they are killing someone. I think some people have been hurt, but I don't. And some people may have been killed in these attacks, but they are placing the bombs and putting me off in during times where not many people are going into the entrance.
So are these
it's kind of a warning.
Are these, Jacob, are these immigrant gangs? Because, from my knowledge, I've been to Sweden. I know Swedish people. I mean, it's hard for me to imagine that there would be gangs in your little town. I mean, you're not living in some huge million towns city. It's hard for me to imagine that Swedish gangs are fighting it out and bombing buildings in your town.
Yeah, but Norrköping has like 100,000 people living here.
Mm-hmm.
But this is, of course, it came with the immigrants and the big refugee wave in the beginning of the 2000s and 2015. It's a lot of people and a lot of criminality came at the same time. And so we have just a few blocks away, we have some of these social housing, these big blocks with before it was it's a poor man's quarters with but now it's just mostly immigrants living there, and they have this gang culture. So and we have the shootings as well, and someone was killed outside the grocery store I usually go to every week. So it's
in
a lot
town.
Yeah,
that's so sad. That's shocking how Sweden
so a lot
has
of these things has happened. And I grew up in Sweden that we didn't see this. It was very unusual. And if it was a bomb blowing up somewhere, I remember from the 80s where there was a restaurant blown up in Stockholm, and it was just whoa. It was in everywhere in the news in the country. It was just
right.
But now it's okay. It's another bomb.
Oh, another bombing.
But what they are doing is
thing.
So to combat this, they are putting out these security cameras, towers in the some of the main streets in the city, and I see more and more of these towers. And outside the grocery store, of course, they have it, and so things are getting in place because of these things that happen, and people are kind of happy. Oh, it's good. I think it's great that we have this surveillance now, because we can track these bad elements, these bad people and bad behavior and everything. So they get support for it, of course.
Yeah, and yes, right. And I mean, you can to a certain degree, you can also understand this, right? If you are naive and you don't really understand what's going on, you think, yeah, good, this is going to protect us, and this is going to make it possible to catch these bombers and put them into prison. But you know what's interesting? This whole immigration catastrophe all over Europe and Germany and Sweden. I mean, Sweden, I think, is one of the worst. Relative to your very small population, you have taken in so many immigrants, and you have such gang problems, and Stockholm is just unrecognizable, really, from what it used to be like just 3 decades ago. You wonder, or I wonder, whether the whole immigration crisis that was done a decision was made to let in millions and millions of immigrants from cultures, and mostly young males that didn't have any intention of being integrated into their respective societies, might it be Germany or Sweden or whatever it is. You wonder whether there was some sort of intention of destabilizing societies, because that destabilization is absolutely ideal for then introducing these kind of rescue measures that would have been totally unacceptable in Sweden.
Yeah.
Like 50 years ago, totally unacceptable. But now where people feel threatened, they, as you said, they like it, they might even ask for it. So you can introduce it without arousing any kind of suspicion among the population.
Yeah, I mean, everything has been it's much harder in Sweden now. It's just how policies are compared to when in the 70s and the 80s. Now they want to jail youth and children, more or less, like 13-year-olds. So it has changed a lot. So now it's just off with the gloves. It's very it's not humane anymore, and people think it's good, of course, now because they have been so. They think the politicians have been naive. They haven't done enough, and they have kind of letting these immigrants get things for free, and so it's really they have upset people,
Of course.
for real, of course. So they just think it's. This is the right way to do this, and but they don't understand that in the end we will all end up in this kind of a prison system.
Mm-hmm. So
and
go ahead.
Yeah,
Sorry,
and also we have introduced new words in Swedish where we talk about inrymning. That's lockdowns in schools. So before, when I grew up, it was like you have to go out of the building when the alarm sets off, and for fire for example. So it was very important. But then we introduced this from a prison system with lockdowns, and I mean it came with the COVID also, but they introduced this wording, and now people should be locked in buildings to protect themselves. It was unheard of before, and it's not like they explain this in the news that okay, we are using this new word. Suddenly, we just have it, and now we're talking lockdowns. Before we didn't do that, so it's a lot of things happening. But for the young people, I guess we just see it as normal. It's the new normal. They haven't been. I'm in my 50s now, so for me, I can have the Sweden I grew up in. I can compare with something. I remember when we had the Soviet Union as the enemy and everything, and it's a whole other society, and it's changed so much that and the young people they haven't a clue about that, and they've also been subjected to all these what's it called, entertainment on television, where people are surveilled and all the time. Yeah,
true.
Yeah, so they are used to this ideas. Okay, why not be surveilled? That's the normal thing to be. I have nothing.
So yeah, that's true, and it's so important that parents tell their children, no, this is not normal, or grandparents tell their grandchildren, no, this is not the way it should be. This is not the way it used to be, so that children have an idea that this is actually not the normal way to live. So let's go to the next domain, which is environmental control, which again, 4 points here: the carbon tracking, personal carbon allowances, climate policy as justification for restrictions, control over energy production and distribution, and resource rationing and managed scarcity.
Yes, and this is I mean, this is what is important in technocracy. With and in the technocratic movement, they had this energy quotas, more or less. This is what you have. This is what you can use. for this month, and so it's basically the same system, but we're introducing it with climate change, and that's why climate change is such an important part of the whole agenda. That it's wholly, it's not tolerated to question this.
What I think, but it's particularly interesting here is the energy production. So we see that the whole climate change agenda is maybe it's being phased out. Maybe it's undergoing some sort of a transition. We saw that with Bill Gates proclaiming that climate change isn't as disastrous and as earth-ending as he thought it would, or world-ending as he thought it would be, and don't panic. I think it has all to do with AI and the enormous amounts of energy that the data centers need.
So that's of course one of the things, and Bill Gates has invested a lot of money in this. But if you go into what he says, it's not like he's abandoned climate change.
True.
So in the future, it was still, because this is about carbon management. So they will still, but it's like now they have this window with Donald Trump, and they talk about sustainable mining and everything. We have to have these critical minerals to everywhere. So it's like it's hard for them to use this an environmental framing when they are building the machine. But if you look into also what the G20 has written this year, it's a lot to do with climate. They use climate change, so it's not like they have thrown it away. But they could do this when the system is in place. At that time, they can tell us, okay, it wasn't about climate change at all. But now we have the system. Now you are under control.
Yeah. And once a tracking and surveillance system is in place with a digital ID and social credit system, then actually the carbon tracking and these personal carbon allowances could become very important means of punishment, no matter whether there is climate change or not. It doesn't really make any difference, but you can use it as punishment. You can say, okay, well, you misbehaved, you did something wrong, or we think you're going to do something wrong, so we are going to curb your carbon allowance this month. You're going to get only half of it, or just maybe 10% of your usual carbon allowance. There are all sorts of ways that you can punish people through this scheme.
Yeah, of course. And one thing, what I think about now with the Trump administration and not believing in the Paris Agreement and wanted to opt out of it and so on, this can be used as so now they let things more free, and then we have more problems in the end. And they can point to when Trump is out of the picture, becomes someone new and says that, okay, you see what happened during Trump. They will use all these resources to build the control grid that he supports with the energy emergency, and then using fossil fuels and everything. And then in the end, they can just say, oh, see what happened. It has getting a lot of worse with Donald Trump. But so now we really have to do something like 2030 when Trump is out of so this can happen. So they can get back to the climate change narrative after this, and that's a possibility.
I mean, for now, I think they're going to concentrate on nuclear energy, because that's the only way they can get the energy they need to power their thousands and thousands of new data centers. So then we have food systems.
Yeah.
Lab-grown meat, synthetic food production, Then attack on traditional farming and agriculture. Yeah, you can see that here very, very well in the United States. Centralized control over food supply chains. Same here in the United States. We have only four, I think only four huge meat packing and meat packing facilities or companies here in the United States. And then the last one is here, nutritional surveillance and dietary mandates. Nutritional surveillance.
Yes, I mean, this is a big thing with agenda as well. Control over food, and here we have, as with almost all these points, we have our Swedish climate guru, not Greta, but Johan Rockström. He's the head of Potsdam Institute in Potsdam, of course, but in Germany.
Mm-hmm.
He's also part of the EAT Foundation, and they are very much into proposing this new kinds of how should we eat in the future to avoid climate change, for example. And they are giving a lot of attention in media, in Swedish media, and also the world published things in the Lancet about this, all these important scientific publications. So yeah, food is important, and if you go to Sweden, we have the same story with very, very few facilities working with food here. And also a few companies controlling everything. So it's the same in everywhere, essentially.
Yeah, so once you have a social credit system in place, it's very easy to achieve these goals, like dietary mandates. I mean, how do you do that? Well, it's easy if you have control over the money. If you have programmable money, it's child's play to do it. You can say, okay, well, with your stable coins, you can only buy certain things and not other things, or you can only buy a certain amount of that, and so on and so forth. So you can force people. You could, for example, force people on a really unhealthy diet, or could try to do that by allowing them only to buy unhealthy stuff. Well, the possibilities are endless. Then let's see. Next one is reproduction control. And there we have population control and demographic engineering, reproductive technology and genetic screening, transhumanist enhancement of future generations, and control over human breeding and selection.
Yeah, that's something that they have worked on for a long time, and I followed this a lot in my book Rockefeller Controlling the Game. With the Rockefeller philanthropist's involvement in this population council, for example. And also, I mean, it goes back a long way. And during the 50s, we had this special studies project where we talked about the control of population. And also we have the World Future Society. I think that's a very important organization in this with visions for the future. And also
what is it called, the society?
The World Future Society. It was created founded in the 1966 maybe with by Edward Cornish and Barbara Marx Hubbard, and they have been important in the agenda. You can find a lot of the big thinkers from the 60s and 70s were connected to world society, and they discussed how we could create this new kind of system for the world, and control over population were one of the most important parts of it. And they talked about during some conference during the 70s that people in the future won't be allowed to just reproduce as they wish. We have to have a kind of management of this process. So it has been in works for a long time.
True. And I mean, China did an enormous experiment with population control with their one-child policy, which has backfired in a disastrous way now.
Yes, and I mean it was introduced in the 1980s.
Yep, that was a long time ago.
Yeah,
right?
and that's and it's very interesting in China because the door to China swung open, as David Rockefeller said. And I talk about this in my book about the Rockefellers and how they were working with Chinese government, and they opened up China for big business and everything. And Bank of China opened an account in David Rockefeller's Chase Manhattan Bank, and China got the possibility to develop as a country, but they had to pay a price. So that in that way we could test this one-child policy, and this is more like the Club of Rome ideas and the Rockefeller ideas as well. Yeah.
And then weaponry. What are the weapons? Well, I mean, these are all weapons that we just went through.
Yeah.
All of these are weapons, but I think they mean no. So they say, what do they say? Engineered biowarfare, replacing bullets. Okay, biowarfare. Well, we are well acquainted with that. Then social engineering replaces propaganda. Then we have autonomous AI systems replacing human combatants. So yeah, like drones and I don't know, robot soldiers, stuff like that. And then invisible stealth mode, technological.
Yes.
Yeah. Let's move on. I mean, it's interesting that really everything here is a weapon to reach the ultimate goal. So what is the ultimate goal? Well, a permanent, inescapable scientific dictatorship where a transnational ruling class achieves total control over every area of human life, including biology itself. And then a global slavery system disguised as progress and sustainability. And I think it did a pretty good job bringing it to the point here, formulating this ultimate goal. Also the disguise as progress and sustainability and resilience. All these nice words, these are actually good words, or they used to be, that are now that are now used to express very, very evil and dark goals.
Yes.
All right. So, and then the very last one, and the most important one, the resistance strategy. So first of all, recognize what is happening across all domains, then expose the stealth war to public awareness, follow your conscience and take responsibility, and take action to resist the technocratic coup. All right. Yeah. So recognize what is happening across all domains. I think that's the step where we are right now. This is a really important part of the resistance strategy.
Yeah, and expose it, of course.
Yes.
That's what I've been trying to do all for many years now.
That's right.
And the thing
you have to expose. I mean, you have to expose it to let people see. You know, you can't. You have to really expose it, and exactly as you said, that's what you have been doing for the last, I don't know, 20 years, 30 years.
Well, since I started to write my PhD thesis.
All right, so 25 years.
I started to find these things, and also had an arena to reach out to more people, but not easy, and not appreciated by people in academia that try to defend the established view and the climate narrative and everything. They don't want to see that there are evil intentions involved in this, of course, because it's I think it's a defense mechanism. Many people, they don't want to see it. They can't imagine that some people don't have our best intentions in view.
Yeah, it's totally understandable, and it also would turn their lives upside down, especially for people in academia who have probably no other skills. They don't know how to survive outside of academia often. So for them, it's kind of life-threatening to to recognize what is happening in many cases, unfortunately.
Yeah, recognize or start to talk about it.
Or start to talk about it. Yes.
That's the dangerous thing to and try to write about it, and that's I mean for me that try to expose this and the Club of Rome people acted against me and people trying wanted to destroy your career, and I mean
course.
there's no place for me in Swedish academia anymore. It's impossible if you have if you start to write about these things. You can't go back to that place because and especially from I mean the institutions I worked they are so totally into the climate narrative. You can't be against it. It's impossible. You can't work with that, and you won't get any funding if you come up with for your research. That's impossible because every research today, especially the last 20 years, has been very connected to sustainability, and then especially in those areas where I've been researching in. So to be critical against it's just what's wrong with you. So it's a difficult thing to do, and it's difficult for those who are the first doing this. But what I've seen is that there are more and more people starting to act, and also one example is with Omniwar Symposium, of course, with people from academia. Most of us can't act and work at university anymore, like David Hughes, for example. Daniel Brody is still in academia. But often in more kind of independent universities. But it's very hard. But we find each other and people with conscience and responsibility to and want to change things for real. So it's a great thing also with the tools we actually have. That they have given us with the internet, of course, all the information that we can share. As long now we can do it, but in a couple of years that might change if they have this more controlling system in place, and it will be harder to share this kind of information. So we are kind of in a hurry to get the information out and people start reacting on it.
Right. Yeah, we are in a hurry, but the other side is also, I mean, they're also
of course
as stupid as the next one, and they are making mistakes. So and then another weapon I think that we have is AI itself. Now, of course, there's all sorts of problems with AI and dangers, and you have to be very careful how you use it, and you have to check the sources and etc. But it is a great tool to aggregate information, to get information very quickly that you then have to check, of course. But it does help you to do things faster than we used to be able to. And I think that we need to use as well. You said something about recognize. You said, recognize is important, but then you have to write about it and talk about it. But I think when people really recognize something, when they really understand something, like you did in the 1990s, when you looked at the politics in the cities and what was happening there in Sweden, and that you saw this had nothing to do with democracy, and that it was really quite very, very corrupt and quite evil what was going on, and people weren't aware of it. You recognized it, and then you had the urge, because you recognized it, you had this newfound truth that you had witnessed yourself, so you had evidence for it. So I think the normal human inclination is to then want to talk about it to other people. And in order to reach more people, to write about it or speak about it publicly. And that is why I think it's so important that you recognize, you don't try to rationalize and think, oh, this is all, I don't know, it's wildly exaggerated. I don't have to take it seriously now, but that you really recognize that you let it in, that you let it sink in, because the talking and writing and everything else follows from that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, okay, and what was the last thing here? Oh yeah, the key scholars. Patrick Wood, Technocracy News, and then David A. Hughes, the author. And he used to be in academia. He had a long career in academia.
Yeah.
All right. So understanding the Omniwar is look at this. Understanding the Omniwar is the first step toward resistance.
Yeah, you got to know what you're fighting against.
Yes. Right. Okay, let's get out of here and to stop share. Okay. So now we know what the Omniwar is. And I would like, before you talk about your talk at the symposium, Jacob, I would like to talk a little bit about what is called dark enlightenment. Because what is this? What are the philosophical underpinnings of all this stuff that is going on here? And there is this expression, the dark enlightenment. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Well, if we go into, I have to, I have to go
well,
into
if you want
my
me
own.
to, I can.
Yeah.
I can talk a little bit about it because I looked at it a little bit. So the Dark Enlightenment, that is actually the title of a book that Nick Land wrote. And Nick Land plays a really influential role in all of this. So he is this author and philosopher. He influenced Peter Thiel, and Peter Thiel apparently also influenced him. This Dark Enlightenment, it rejects democracy, it rejects equality before the law, it rejects human rights, it kind of rejects all the Enlightenment principles that we are accustomed to and used to be so proud of. So it espouses anti-democratic, and openly so. It doesn't try to hide this. It openly espouses anti-democratic, anti-egalitarian ideals, and it argues that the society needs something like a hard reset toward a new and really authoritarian form of government. And it has an interesting expression for this complex, this media universities and government bureaucracies. It calls it the cathedral, a network that enforces certain ideologies and suppresses dissent. And they have a point there. There is something like a cathedral, the universities and the media.
Yeah. So we have it. But what is the solution?
Exactly. But they come up with a solution that is horrific.
Yeah.
They decide that democracy is not working, democracy is corrupt, it's just unsuitable. And then there is also another intellectual called, he's apparently also very important, Curtis Yarvin.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he's the main philosopher of the movement.
And again, very close connection to Peter Thiel. So Peter Thiel is influenced. Actually, I think David Hughes calls him Peter Thiel's house philosopher.
Yeah, exactly.
And his work, Curtis Yarvin's work, he was born in 1973. So he's around the same age as many of these technocrat billionaires. His work advocates the abolition of liberal democracy. And then instead, he's envisioning a autocratic kind of CEO-style autocratic state modeled after the structure of corporations with governance concentrated in a single powerful executive.
Yeah, it's a technocracy. It's I have a description with a hierarchical technocratic monarchy controlled by a single executive, aided by experts and technocrats advising and carry out the agenda, with decisions based on science and big data instead of popular vote. This is a system built on efficiency with its roots in the corporate world.
Yeah.
And
the public has no say.
Nope.
None. And this is, in fact, I think they already almost achieved that. Because when you think about all these changes, like building these thousands of data centers under the Trump administration, AI, what's happening with AI, what's happening with surveillance, all these things, all these things, there was the public, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what they want. It doesn't matter what they even understand about it. It doesn't matter at all. They get their vote. So they voted for Trump. Now, did people who voted for Trump think that on the second day of his after his inauguration, he would meet with Larry Ellison, I think, and other tech moguls, and Elon Musk, of course, being in there all the time?
The Stargate project.
And announce it. I mean, I almost fell off my chair when I heard that. That what the heck is going on? On the second day, you couldn't even wait like a month or 2 months. I mean, in a way, it was nice. He gave it away immediately, right? Because that was like a total eye opener. What on earth was this about? Stargate and working together with them and huge funding streams going. I mean, and then Palantir. What's happening with Palantir?
Yeah.
He didn't get a mandate for that through that. That's not what he talked about in his campaign, on his campaign trail.
No.
Nobody expected that.
No, so this was kind of it was a trigger with the Trump coming into power, and they took all these ideas and just pushed it through. But it's just and it's the false dichotomy with we talk about opting out of the Paris Agreement and United Nations agenda and the NGOs and everything, but essentially doing the same thing in the end. And if you go into Peter Thiel, again, as I said, Bilderberg Steering Committee member. This is important because then he has been in the Bilderberg group since like 2007, and he's it's the inner group, the inner grouping, and he's a part of something called Americans for Bilderberg or something like that, and they are funding. So he has funded their activities, and these are the ones that choose the guests on Bilderberg meetings. And he has been in this like almost 20 years now. And at the time, Friends of Bilderberg, it's the name of it. And at the time when he was invited to this group, who were in this committee, the American group? It was David Rockefeller and Henry Kissinger, two of them. And these are the people that have shaped the whole sustainability narrative. And now Peter Thiel acts against this and their ideas. But he's very much in this system. It's the same thinking. It's the same end goal that these people have.
Yeah, and you just mentioned Kissinger. I mean, he's dead now, but he shortly before he died, like when he was 99 or so, he published a book. Let me see, I have this book here somewhere. I'm gonna just see with whom he co-wrote it. One moment, I'll be right back. So this is the book. I don't know if you can see it.
Yeah.
So it's called. It's co-written. So it's Henry Kissinger. Co-written with Eric Schmidt, the Google former CEO of Google, and Craig Mundy, and it's called Artificial Intelligence, Hope and the Human Spirit, Genesis, and it's a book very propagating AI, talking about all the wonderful things it's going to do. So that's what he did in just before, very shortly before he died.
Yes, and those co-authors, they are Bilderbergers. They are a Bilderberg steering committee.
Both of them, Eric Schmidt. I wouldn't be surprised about Eric Schmidt and Craig Mundy as well.
I think.
Have a look.
I found them in here. We have Schmidt. I think I wrote about this in my last book, The Digital World Brain. About this book. Schmidt, Kissinger, Craig Mundy co-authored this, the three Bilderbergers. Yeah. So Craig Mundy was he was the Microsoft former chief research and strategy officer.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. So all three of these authors are connected with the Bilderberg group.
Yeah, and it's in the same group as Peter Thiel.
As Peter Thiel, right. Yeah. And I'm just going to go through some other names here with the Technocrat billionaires and their ties to Trump. So Larry Ellison, the co-founder of Oracle.
Yeah.
Peter Thiel, of course, we talked about him a lot. Sam Altman, Mark Andreessen. So Patrick Wood called him in this symposium, in this Omniwar Symposium, he called him the kingmaker. He was at the table when Trump selected all the other people will go over them in a moment. In the first place, in late 2024, to assume positions within the government based on the qualities of technocrats, he said. So whom do we have? We have Michael Kratsios. He is the director of the White House Office of Science and Technology Policy. He used to be managing director of Scale ID in 2021 and also head of strategy of Scale ID. So Scale ID is a data annotation company. It trains large language models. It has, I think, 220,000 employees all around the world that look at content and then react to it and say this is good, this is bad, etc. Often in Africa, it used to be like, I think in Kenya, it used to be in Chile. So he was involved in that. Then we have Elon Musk, of course. Peter Thiel, by the way, is also the mentor of J.D. Vance, who supported his political campaigns and really launched his political career because he had the money and he gave the money to allow him to do this. So without Peter Thiel, J.D. Vance, probably nobody would, or very few people would know who he is. Then you have David Sachs. He is Trump's AI and crypto czar. And you have Howard Lutnick, Secretary of Commerce. And he used to be the chairman and CEO of Cantor Fitzgerald, the financial services firm based in New York. And almost all of their New York employees died in 2001 and 9/11 because they had their office almost at the very top and almost nobody survived. Yeah, so that's just a selection of the technocrat billionaires in the Trump government.
And another thing, if we go to Andresen, he was a global leader of Tomorrow, World Economic Forum in 1996. Howard Lutnick, he was global leader Tomorrow 1998 of the World Economic Forum. Pete Thiel, young global leader 2008. Elon Musk, a young global leader 2009. And also we have Sam Altman, of course. He was young global leader in 2016. So, and the science advisor, the head of science and technologies in the Trump administration is Michael Kratsios. He comes directly from World Economic Forum as well and the Young Global Leaders Program. So these people, we talk a lot about how bad World Economic Forum was, but they are very, very much involved and have been involved with their ideas. This is basically the fourth industrial revolution. They are all these people are very much into the technologies of the fourth industrial revolution and making it happen.
All right. So, Jacob, before we finish, I would like you to give us an overview of your talk at the Omniwar Symposium.
Yes. So my talk is about actually the spiritual agenda involved in this. That's something that I have been actually came in contact quite early, already during my PhD studies. But we had this ideas of it's like a deterministic plan for the world with which is guided by spiritual masters, and you can find that a lot of these networks involved in the globalist agenda, they have supported the kind of spiritual groups that promote ideas of oneness and we are all one, interconnectedness, and that human evolution is guided by masters, more or less ascended masters that have wisdom to bring about heaven on earth and these ideas. So I found this in, for example, in when I researched the Club of Rome and its sister organizations, the Club of Budapest, that discussed the development of the global consciousness and global spirituality. So my talk was a lot about this, how this ideas has been a part of this growing global society, and also transhumanist thoughts with how humans should evolve and become perfected It's a lot of to do with alchemy, for example, or this occult and esoteric ideas of perfection that we can find in secret societies, for example, like Freemasonry and other kind of secret societies as well, Rosicrucianism and so on. Societies and occult ideas that if you go into the transhumanist movement, they refer to this. But what I especially looked into is it's a British American occultist called Alice Bailey, who founded an organization in 1922 called the Lucis Trust. And the Lucis Trust has had a very close cooperation with United Nations.
And can I just, sorry, I just want to briefly interrupt you because I thought that was so fascinating. Lucis Trust, it was formerly the Lucifer Publishing Company, right? And they say, but they see Lucifer as what? What is Lucifer?
Kind of a liberator, right? I mean, it's someone, and it's the use of the human force. And we talk about co-creating with the creator. So that's taking control over evolution. That's using technology to perfect the things that God left undone, more or less. Bringing heaven to earth, creating Eden with help of technology. And so I write about this in my book, Temple of Solomon. The whole thing with the spiritual agenda and how this organization, Lucis Trust, they have a prayer or an invocation that talks about the reappearance of the Christ and how they want to kind of bring about this new society. We even talk about the New World Order. The term New World Order was, I think it was more or less coined by Alice Bailey, and very much in her books that was dictated to her by the Tibetan, and that's one of the masters. She claimed that this Tibetan, Jwal Khol, had contacted her telepathically and asked her to write down.
That's one crazy woman. She sounds like a mad woman.
Yeah. But this is very typical for New Age circles and also for occultism. They all usually base these ideas on kind of a master from the spiritual world that gives them information. And this information is the truth. So this gives justification for everything that they are promoting. And the thing is, we can see her as a mad woman, but this has been an influential movement, and
very much so. Yes.
Lucis Trust and Alice Bailey, they with a New Age movement grew out of these ideas, and also Lucis Trust close connection to the United Nations. They have these meditations, and they want to bring light to these global summits that we have every year. To make we want United Nations meetings to be a success, and we want our ideas to grow in this. And also they have given lighted support to World Economic Forum since 2011. And also the meeting with the fourth industrial revolution. You can follow how they have been into this and give support to this. And also one of the things, and that's why I had this talk, is that in one of our books, Externalization of a Hierarchy, we talk about 2025 as a very important year. It's the year when the so-called spiritual hierarchy will decide when they will come out in the open and rule the world.
What is going to come out in the open?
The ascended masters, the masters of wisdom, the leader.
All right. How many are there?
Yeah,
is it a whole army?
Yeah, kind of. I have a list of these masters that are in the Lucis Trust lore, and this goes back also to Madame Blavatsky and her ideas of secret leaders.
Another crazy woman,
Yeah,
Jacob.
but this also goes back to Rosicrucianism, but also talks about secret. So this has been going on in the secret societies, and it's also connected.
Yes.
We can find it in Freemasonry as well. We talk about the Great White Brotherhood on Sirius, and a lot of crazy stuff,
Yeah.
that but has a following, and these people they believe this, and but as I write about in my Temple of Solomon book, it's just it's kind of a trick, because you get people on board on this, and you give them all these mysteries and things, and it's very elitist with you progressing, and you obeying the masters because they are standing for the truth. There's a lot of people getting involved in these things, but in the end, what I wrote in the book is probably these masters are no spiritual beings at all. It just also I found a lot of, I would say, evidence for this, that these masters were just inventions. They wanted to give the impression of, or Madame Blavatsky, she had more or less admitted that the masters that then became ascended spiritual masters, they were real people. They were kind of occultists and alchemists and Freemasons and so on that she knew. And it's the same, and Lucis Trust, they just took these masters. But I think actually we can find masters, but these people are skilled people in business, and those who are running the operations in the big philanthropies and so on. These are the real masters, and these are the ones that will externalize in the open when we have this technological society in place. Then they can say, okay, we were running these things all the time. And of course, we see this with politicians, what we talked about before. They are kind of they are not that important anymore. Mm-hmm. They are not running anything. They are just poster guys for an agenda, and they get the blame for things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right. And all these alchemists and whatever spiritual master schemes, etc. Yeah. I mean, if you get people, if you're good enough, if you write enough books, and they are, maybe these books by Alice Bailey are fascinating, all the 25 or 35 she cranked out, I don't know, or that were dictated to her by these whatever spiritual masters. If you are good at that stuff, you can become a really good con artist. I mean, it gives you power over people, and you can make a lot of money. That's entirely possible. Tell me, is there a connection between Lucis Trust and the Bilderberg Group?
It's not like it's an obvious connection. That I actually wrote an article about the Bilderberg meeting, but it's more like, okay, these people attending these meetings, they are the real masters. Actually, they are doing the things behind the scenes. But more or less are described by Lucis Trust. But the thing was, what I found very interesting, it was that the Bilderberg meeting was at the same time as one of the most important festivals for Lucis Trust, the Christ Festival. So it was held, and during the full moon, because the full moon is very important in their rituals. Right. So it was at the exactly same time. And this is the year we talked about with the masters behind the scenes taking the places in the important organizations in the world.
That's
for example,
2025, right? The year
2025.
2025. Okay.
But then that's the time when we would decide. So it's not like they would step out exactly at 2025. It's more like they will have a meeting, and at this meeting they will evaluate how far the plan has progressed, because they talk about in her books that I think maybe the first book already, that they initiated this a plan in around 1900 about transforming the world and bring about this global governance system. So it's in the writings, and also if you follow what I found interesting was the connections to the United Nations, and they also say in the Externalization of Hierarchy book that the masters, they were more like they were influencing the founding of the United Nations. They were more or less behind the scenes. They were the constructors, the founders. And if you go into who the founders of the United Nations were, you find that this is people connected to the Roundtable Group, founded by Cecil Rhodes in the early 1900s. So Cecil Rhodes will, when he died, they started the Rhodes Scholar Group, and we have Carol Quigley with his book Tragedy and Hope, and he says that they decided to create a kind of a secret society to bring this plans and make it work in the world. And out of this came organizations like Council of Foreign Relations in New York and Royal Institute of International Affairs in London, and also these philanthropic organizations. And you can find references kind to these things in the books of the Lucis Trust. So that's what I argue in my book, that what Lucis Trust is essentially the spiritual department of the Roundtable movement. It's their ideas that you can find in this book. It's not, I don't think these books are very spiritual in that way as other spiritual literature are. It's a long lists with things to do, and it's very business orientated language in this.
Oh, it sounds more like a manual.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a manual on achieve this. And we also know we have worked on the economy, of course, and we have worked with the energy, environment, and all these areas. But we also have to have a spiritual side of things, influencing spiritual minded groups, influencing religious organizations. So worked on a possible actor that they can find, and also the resistance. One very interesting thing is with Alice Bailey and the Lucis Trust, that you find a lot of people that have been involved in these groups and this thinking, believing in the masters and everything, but has been opposers of the New World Order. And a lot of literature about conspiracy theories in the 90s was by people connected to the ideas of Alice Bailey. So it's very interesting to see that the same network has come up with this conspiracy theory framework, world of ideas, that made also critical analysis of this powerful network, kind of a tin hat foil thing. So, it's a lot of examples of people that has been involved in this.
And, so many.
We talk about the Black Lodge in this terminology. The Black Lodge are the bad people. They could be Bill Gates and also World Economic Forum and so on. But you find that the same kind of solutions come from the opposite sides, and that's one of the things that I wrote about also in my book, The Global Coup d'etat, when I investigated the opposition, or more or less the visible opposition to what happened during the COVID-19 pandemic. All these groups that came out in the open and worked with these things and were often connected to this kind of New Age spirituality, and based on the writings in the beginning of Alice Bailey.
I want to add one thing here about Lucis Trust, namely that Lucis Trust has what is called consultative status at the United Nations Economic and Social Council, ECOSOC, and its NGO affiliate called World Goodwill. Wow, what a name. World Goodwill is recognized by the UN Department of Global Communications. All right, there we go. So, wow, thank you, Jacob. Doesn't that give you a warm feeling to know that we are in the hands of super wealthy, reckless, arrogant madmen who seem to have no clue how deranged their ideas and plans are, and who either who either don't understand or don't care that if implemented, life on Earth will turn into living hell for practically everybody, including themselves.
These are they have hubris, I would say, and they think they can do this, and that's also why they have this spiritual dimension added to it. So it will give them the means, and it's like we have a masters on our side. We are fulfilling a divine plan. So we are doing the right thing, but it's just a hubris, and it will not work because they are only people. They have limits on what they can do. So that's my conclusion. They will not succeed with this. It's not. It's impossible.
Yeah, and who knows? Maybe some of them even take delight in unleashing hell on humanity. Who knows what kind of psychopaths some of these guys are? I don't know. But all this means that there is really no choice but that we care and understand and talk about this, because the more all this omnivore is talked about, and the more people are horrified by what is happening, which is a natural reaction, then the more people will protest against these harebrained schemes. And then the more difficult it will become for them to wage their awful war against us.
Yeah.
So it's true that I think understanding this omnivore is the first step toward winning it.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's these people that should be afraid. And I think they are.
Yeah, they certainly are, because it's just they are such a tiny elite. And they know that if even just 5% or 10% of the population really understand this mortal danger, then they are going to be fearing for their lives. Yeah. So they're very well aware of it.
That's why they need an agentic state, AI agents and so on. They need a technological machine to take care of it.
Yeah, they need to be protected. Well, no, of course it's not going to work. Whatever things human beings undertake, well, it's never going to work out the way it's envisioned, which is a comforting thought. So last thing I wanted to mention is your new book. You have another book, The Digital Brain, and you told me that you finished translating it into English, and it's going to be published soon. When is that going to be?
Early next year.
Okay, early next year.
So I haven't the date yet. Maybe February, March.
Okay.
But it will also be released, published in German. So
awesome.
I have a German publisher that will do it, and also early next year.
Okay, excellent. We should do an interview about your book once it's out in English and I've read it, or in German. Yeah. And then the last thing I want to say is there is a new book coming out by Ian David. I think that's the Davis. Ian Davis. Ian Davis. It's called The Technocratic Dark State. And that's an awesome book. I just listened to an interview. David Hughes was interviewing Ian. David Hughes was interviewing Ian Davis about the book, and that sounded very, very promising. It was a fascinating interview, really. So that book is coming out, he said in the interview, in about a month's time, so should be out soon. The Technocratic Dark State, he explains very, very well this whole omnivore concept. He calls it the Technocratic Dark State and what it entails and how to resist it, what to do against it. Yeah. Thank you so much, Jacob.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me.
It was a pleasure. Okay, wow, that was great. I'm going to stop.
Here comes the cat.
Oh, there's the cat. I forgot. I wanted to talk to you about your cat. I forgot.
Right in time. We just finished.
Well, I can just. I'm still recording. I can leave that in. Well, because you said something about your cat and how wonderful it is to have a cat.
Well, it is life, and it's love. She comes in the morning and just yeah.
I know. I've had a cat. Cats are wonderful.
Yeah. So I think this is part of resistance. Have a cat, and the cat saves us from our screens as well. We are sitting too much at the screen, so
that's right. Have a cat, have a dog, watch the birds outside, go out into nature. That's also really helpful.
And meet friends for real. Yeah.
Meet friends for real.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jacob.